Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
One more.
Brian, one more question, hold on.
Like, I want to make sure that both them cities know they're on board with it.
I have spoken to yes, both cities know they're on board, and and sort of City of Carabel has always been involved. The City of Apalachicola I spoke to last week, and the word that I got was that the city would be participating in the meetings. They would be participating.
Okay.
I hope that resolves some other things, but I'll defer the attorneys to say things. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Ms. Needham Mosley.
I'm Nita Molesby, and I'm here to represent the Pine Coast Plantation Homeowners Association, which is off Highway 67 in Carabel. Most people refer to it as Hickory Hammock. But we would, again, like to ask y'all to help us with our roads and take these and turn them into county roads.
Mr. Sheila?
I have some maps here if y'all would like to see them.
Well, Commissioner, we looked at this issue, I think, at the end of last year and again at the beginning of this year. And y'all excuse my voice as I've had a cough for the last couple of weeks. When we last addressed this issue at the middle or the early part of this year, there were a number of roads that the board had been looking at potentially considering taking over. But the task that you had given to me is A, how much would it cost if the board wanted to move forward, and then B, how could the board move forward? The number of roads that were looked at on the list, Mike, if you scan that out to everybody. There's a total of 8, no, I might give you one, I'm sorry. There's a total of 8 roads that are on this preliminary estimate. There were some additional roads that had been discussed by other commissioners in other areas of the county that frankly the engineer has not yet made an estimate on. But for the 8 roads that were looked at, there were 4 in the community of East Point, and there were 4 different roads, but they're all in the Pine Coast Plantation Hickory Hammock area. Bearing in mind that this preliminary engineering estimate does not include the estimate for proper management of the stormwater distribution that would have to be looked at and is a necessary component of any decision you might make moving forward. For those 8 different roads, the estimate just for bringing the roads up to your current required county standards for roads was $2.8 million. The specific number is $2.796 million. As far as process goes, under your current county ordinances and your zoning code, you are not allowed to accept as a public road any road that's not constructed to your current county road standards. None of these roads in this estimate are presently constructed to your county required construction standards. So somebody has to pay to bring these roads up to the standards before you can accept them. And so earlier this year, the board's discussion was that the public could not afford to take on these private roads and make them public roads. And the discussion died out at that point, probably in February or so of this year.
It was in February because I was out with my hip replacement.
Yes, Commissioner.
And so that's what you always, that's what you
My
always
recommendation
do.
to the board, I've had the distinct privilege and honor of being your attorney since 2001, and I've always recommended to the board that you not accept private roads as public roads unless they are constructed to the county road standards. Now, I know in years past other things have happened, but there have been a lot of people under these road standards that have spent the money to bring the roads up to your county road standards, and it's been my advice to you that you maintain that standard and not make exceptions to it. But I also recognize that I'm making that recommendation and advice to you based on your ordinances. So unless and until you change your ordinance, that's my advice. And at this point, I would not make any recommendation to you to make a change in your ordinances simply because there's been so many people that have complied with, these road standards. So that's the background and history of this particular issue. I can certainly look at this additionally if you would like to. I can look at the stormwater, which I've not looked at yet. We've got additional roads I know over here in the community of Apalachicola and north of Apalachicola, where there were some commissioners that had dirt roads that I have never had looked at, because the last indication I had from the board was, we can't afford this. So
Have you taken any of the roads that came up in?
these, no, ma'am.
Have you done work on Buck Street and East Point that I know y'all were looking at taking?
Not to my knowledge, no, ma'am. If somebody asked me, I mean, I sympathize. I mean, I understand.
We done that one upgrade that time when they was flooded out and couldn't get their house to do the ambulance.
When was this? During?
Back a year or so ago, you remember the road washed out, we done just that one little, we've done that one little old scoop of, lime rock where they dropped on the road, they could put it in there and get the ambulance in and get that Mooner kid out.
Yeah, Chairman, I'll
That's
accept
been
that. I
back
don't have
over
any
years
recollection of
or
that.
so ago or something.
Well, you know, yesterday afternoon, and I know it's not your fault, but yesterday afternoon, I took just a few minutes to look at some taxes, and I just grabbed the first 5 homeowners I could think of in this subdivision, our subdivision. The 5 of us will pay about $20,000 in property taxes. There are 42, I believe 42 parcels of land in this homeowners association. And only 5 of us is gonna pay about $20,000 in taxes. We're getting nothing for it. We don't see any police protection coming up there. You don't help us with our roads in any way. You don't help us with any grass cutting. You don't bring the bucket truck up, to my knowledge, and pick up anything on the side of the road. We have the honor of being in Franklin County and giving you all this tax money, and we don't get anything for it. And to me, I don't think that's right. I've looked at others, I've been here all my life to start with. Not this board, but the county commission has taken roads that have not been up to standard. I know that. You take the places that pay a lot of taxes and you bend over backwards to help them. I mean, I'm all over Franklin County and they're basically getting anything they want. From one end of the county to the other, I'm not picking out any section. We pay taxes too, and we're paying some high taxes.
Let me ask, well, Mr. Chairman, if
Yes,
I
sir.
might. Under our subdivision ordinance, Michael, as you was referring to earlier, I think about the roads being built, and was that not, I think that was expressed whenever we were subdividing all this agricultural property out there, years and years ago, when they were going from 1 to 40 down to 1 to 10 or 1 to 20 or whatever the zoning was or is now. And I think that's the reason they formed this homeowners association, is to be able to try to raise the funds in order to keep these roads up themselves, as that is a private subdivision. Am I not correct there in my assumption? If I remember correctly, that's the way it was played out.
Well, Commissioner, that's correct. Whenever y'all were upzoning the property to allow for this development, they had the option, when they were putting in the infrastructure at that time, they could have built it to the county road standards and y'all would have accepted it, and then you would have continued to maintain it from that point forward. The whole point of having your subdivision ordinance with these road standards is that the public is not supposed to be burdened with the expense of the initial construction. Whether it's a paved road or it's a dirt road, you do have road construction standards. Now, I am certainly aware, as you pointed out, and I think I alluded to in my initial presentation, things that have happened, 20 years ago when some private roads ended up having county equipment on them improperly. But that predates my time as the county attorney. Every time that this issue has been brought to me, my advice has been stick to your ordinance, follow what it says, and don't put your equipment on private property. Now, and perhaps what Commissioner Massey was referring to, there is some very, very limited authority during declared states of emergency that things can be done, but I don't really know which incident we're talking about. I can talk to the chairman after the meeting, but these private roads need to be constructed to the county road standards, and then we can take them over, whether they're paved or they're dirt. Bearing in mind, we're not just talking the construction cost of these roads. You still have to figure out a way, and then once you accept the roads, if you do, then you're responsible for all the stormwater management, with the water flows being altered and changed by those roads when they were constructed. I know personally, I had one of the adjacent property owners from one of the parcels in East Point stopped and talked to me at my office and was complaining about how this road was flooding out, acreage on his property. So there certainly are people out there looking at that issue. So you would have to examine and investigate the stormwater liability issues before you could even consider moving forward. if you should, but bearing in mind, my recommendation is that you just stick to your subdivision ordinance and not change that. In other words, you would not accept these roads until they are constructed by the property owners to county road standards, and then they can dedicate it to you, and then it becomes a public road. Y'all have done that for many other subdivisions.
But it seemed like on a lot of these roads and where they're located is that the developer went in there and built a half road, and then people move in there, and then they come back to us and saying, why don't we fix your roads, why don't we? And the developer knew going in that he was supposed to build these roads up to county standard as you creating a subdivision.
Right.
And I understand what Miss Anita's saying about paying taxes. We all pay taxes. But it comes back to the developer that sold and prospered off of selling this agricultural land to be able to make a profit, not using those profits to upgrade the road and putting a decent road and access into these properties that he's selling off. Is that on a number, not just her road, but a number of these roads have been done that way. In other words, they're circumventing what the county's policy has been from the beginning.
And that in part was the reason for the creation of subdivision ordinance. I mean, there was an old development theory that if I plat it and put a goat trail in there and get enough voters, then they can come to the board and get you to pay, accept a lot of these substandard roads. That's part of the reasoning, the impetus of why you adopted the subdivision ordinance, to put a stop to that. As far as paying taxes, that, I empathize with people that want to have, good and proper access to the property. I empathize with paying taxes. I pay my fair share too. And by the way, I've got about 6 miles of dirt roads if we're going down this trail, but my recommendation is stick to your ordinance. Don't change it. Let's treat everybody fairly and equally moving forward as we have for, the last 15 years or so.
Well, let me ask a question.
Yes, sir.
Is that development sold out?
I
Are they
believe
still-
it, yes, sir, I believe it has.
Oh, so they're not selling no more property?
No, sir. And I honestly don't know who developed it and built the roads.
Them roads built by Buckeye. Buckeye built them roads and they had the land.
Not like the guy, Bobby Sapp, Mr. Bill Wells and all them when they got that property. And let me just add something. When the talk started coming early on in the late 1990s and early 2000s, when hardly anybody lived down there, hardly anybody owned any land, Mr. Sapp and Mr. Wells came before the board. Alan, you'll remember, they wanted to subdivide it down to 5-acre parcels and stuff. Back then, you had to submit it to DEP for approval. And DEP sent a letter back to the county and said the roads were substandard and the stormwater was an issue. And until those two things were brought up to standard, that they recommend nothing less than the 10 acres.
Right, that's correct.
Is that not right?
That's how we end up with the 10 acres.
So, I mean, this is the reason why we've always done it. This is the thing, when you have property out there and people go out there and they see the property, they go and buy it, they have to drive down that road to get to that property. They should see that it's a dirt road. I mean, and I know, Nita, you got it right with all of us. You got taxes, you pay taxes. Everybody does. I try to have that road graded at least once a week up to Hickory, Hammock, because I know how bad it is. And the way they fly out of there, it's a wonder somebody don't get killed. That's the reason why we had all the bushes cut back and everything where y'all could come out to the stop sign. Because there's been people not stopping at that stop sign and just about broadside people. So, I mean, that's all we can do until the association, and I'm saying the homeowners association, brings up those roads to some kind of a standard, whatever the standard be for the county. We're stuck. And that is with all these roads on this list. All these roads.
You're correct. And another issue is, if I remember correctly, 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, we looked at saying, well, maybe we could go in there for so many dollars an hour and grade a road. Well, then we had all the contractors come down.
Yep.
And I won't sit here and call all their names and then blast us. Y'all interfering with my business. That's what I do for a living. I own a grader. I haul dirt. I keep roads up. And then they all come in here and blasted us for that. So, I mean,
They did.
we've tried to look at different scenarios. Of course, the attorneys always advise us not to put county equipment on private roads, but, And then the contractors come in, there's 5 or 6, 7 of those in the county, says, that's what we do for a living. Now, our county that we pay taxes to and everything else is coming in and competing against us, well, we can't make the money to pay our taxes. So it really turns into a catch-22 when you try to put public equipment on private roads, because you are interfering in the private sector and their ability to earn a living. And I know several, or at least 3 of those people do have graders. They go in for so many dollars an hour and keep your roads graded, and I know Mr. Schuler himself had to use some of them. So that's just the way it works. So it puts the county, the board here in a bad situation, even trying to do something by the hour. I mean, it really does. And we hear about it. They come down and blast us
All
about
the
it.
way around.
So we're in a catch-22 here. We're catching it from the taxpayers, but then we're catching it from industry also.
I have a suggestion. Is there any way possible the county could probably can y'all get with the county engineer, our county engineer in Franklin County, on possibly doing a grant on this?
Right back there. What's your name?
Greg Barber. I live in the,
I don't know that you can get a grant for doing a private.
It's private property, there's no public grants.
There is no public grants for private property.
but I mean, if the county would take it over, I mean, you look in Calhoun County, all them roads is immaculate shape through FEMA grant money.
How much, Miss Nita, how much of, through the association, I know at one time they were charging y'all, whoever had road frontage had to pay so much every year. Are they still paying that?
Yes,
Are y'all
we
still paying that?
according to how much road frontage.
For the, okay.
So the interior lots in these subdivisions don't pay anything?
I don't think there are any interior lots.
Okay.
Everything fronts on the road.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
It all
they're
front
big
on
blocks of
They're
property.
anywhere from 10 to 40 acre parcels.
Well, my suggestion would be to get with some of the private contractors and see if you can't get the road through the fees that Commissioner Sanders is referring to, and get the road brought up to standard.
Well, and I have to go back, and Alan can remember, up in the old courtroom, Mr. Sapp said, Commissioner, we need Jeff Sanders paved it all the way from the highway to Hickory Hammock. I said, Mr. Sapp, when you pave all those roads in at Hickory Hammock, that's day and time they'll be paved from highway into Jefferson, on Jeff Sanders to Hickory Hammock. So it puts us, as you can hear the attorney, puts us in a bad spot. Anyway.
If we could work on bringing them up, and I think I talked with Michael that there's forestry standards, or are you talking about?
Yeah, we'll have to figure that out. I don't know if we can do it live today, but.
No, I didn't want to. I mean, there's different standards is what I'm asking.
Now, Nita,
Sounds like it's
I mean, we don't want to pay.
that's what I was going to say. Now, Nita, you know you don't want to have it to forester standards now.
Sounds like it's forester standards now. That's not real good. Forester standards are just where you can get a tractor and a bulldozer down.
To the front.
Well, one of the main things we need help with right now is cutting. We don't have the equipment that will come and cut the sides. That's one of our worst things. My question is, if we could do this in sections, would you be willing to work with us? Instead of going in and us doing every road in the subdivision, maybe take half of Hickory Hammock at one time, the other half in a year or two?
I'm going to have to stay with the attorney on what.
Well, I mean,
The
I'm
subdivision
saying
ordinance,
if we bring them up to standard.
right, bear in mind, it's not just the road itself, we also, as I've mentioned earlier, the stormwater has also got to be looked at as well. But yes, assuming that some portion of it is brought up to the county road standards, there's no requirement in the subdivision ordinance I can think of right now that says it's got to be, 5 feet or 10 feet or 20 feet. Now, what I would need to look at, frankly, because I'm not familiar with Hickory Hammock subdivision, has the entire road system been platted, or part of it's been platted? I don't know if it
No, I
was
think
platted
all
in
of it's been
phases,
platted.
because the way we've always worked with subdivision roads is, all the roads that are actually on the plat and constructed would have to be brought up to road standard. We could not accept part of the road system if it was not up to road standard. Because let me make sure I'm being clear. For example, on St. George Island, for example, they had a number of roads that were in Gulf Beach's units 1 through 5. They weren't all built and constructed at the same time. Of course, that was back in the 40s and 50s. So if you have a road system in which you build most of the roads up to the road system and you've got some that are unopened, then we might could look at that issue and be able to help you out there. But if you actually have roads that are shown on the face of the plat and they're actually opened and constructed and being used, all of that open system would have to be brought up to standard before the county could accept any part of it.
As you, if I might, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
as you're referring to bringing the roads up to county standards now, that consists of being 60 foot wide and being paved and all that, or what?
That will depend on the nature of the subdivision. The paving requirement is only kicks in whenever you have an excess, I believe, of 20 units in a subdivision. Any subdivision with less than 20 units can use a 40-foot wide dirt road.
Okay.
Yeah, but if the subdivision is in excess of 20 units, it does have to be a 60-foot wide right-of-way, and it would have to be paved.
Is this road we were discussing here this morning, is it 40 foot wide?
I don't know.
Most areas, yes.
Well, I mean, all that has to be looked at. Another issue was, Michael, if I remember correctly, Mr. Schuler, there was a lot of issues with cross drains on this road. I mean, it was more than just putting
That's the
material on the
stormwater.
road. There was a lot of cross drains that needed to be replaced, and in other places, cross drains need to be installed. I mean, it was more than just the surface you're driving on.
That's part of the stormwater management issue that I have been
Oh,
referring to
okay.
in this discussion.
Okay.
Sorry if I was not being clear.
And if I remember correctly, when we looked at this earlier, as y'all were referring to, I can't remember the dates, but that was almost double the price of these roads?
I hesitate only because the actual engineering studies have not been done, but doubling the cost would not be outside the scope of a reasonable expectation.
So we're going from 1.7 probably to 3 million at least.
It could easily, right, it potentially could, yes, but we would need to actually have the engineering studies done before, I would want to settle on that. But yes, it's going to be much more expensive to deal with some of these stormwater issues.
But you won't, what you're saying, you won't take them unless they're paved?
I don't know what the standard is.
It would depend on what the subdivision plat showed, how many units were in there. I have no idea how many units.
I think about 42.
42? It's still zoned ag, isn't it?
I'd like to ask you a
Need more
couple of questions
information.
myself, if you don't care. I'm James St. Clair. When Cheryl seemed to think it's a little funny that we said something about Jeff Sanders Road, is it up to par to pave?
You pay?
Yes,
I didn't,
it's a county road, isn't it?
I didn't think something was so funny. I don't
Well,
know
no,
what
you
you're talking about,
kinda
Mr.
smiled
Sinclair.
about it when you said, well, y'all asked us to do that, and we are asking you to do something. I probably pay more taxes on one of my plat than any of you
Probably
guys
do.
up there.
You probably do, Mr. Sinclair.
I pay about
But I don't-
$5,000.
I don't, let me say this. Let me say this.
I would like to see Jeff Sanders Road paved from
I
Highway
know you
67 to
would.
Hickory.
I know
because
you
it's
would.
putting my vehicles out of alignment.
Yeah, it does everybody.
But I do
Um,
appreciate the grading on it. But
but-
I'd like to see it in the paving program.
You know, my thing is, Mr. Sinclair, I didn't make fun of nothing. Let me tell you, I've lived in them woods for over 30 years, and I can tell you, it's been bad. And I lived up there on a county road, and it was bad.
Yeah, I know where you live.
You know where I live.
But you don't really want it paved yourself personally.
What, Jeff Sanders?
Yes.
What can you, with two people living on that road, can you substantiate?
There's more than two people.
I'm talking
up
about on
there.
Jeff Sanders.
Yeah,
I'm talking about on Jeff Sanders. It's Brooks, Bryan, myself, we own the property all in there.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's it. And then you got Ernie Bryant at the end of the road.
well, we do have to
But
take
it
in a
doesn't,
little.
this isn't about Jeff Sanders Road. This is about Hickory Hammock
Exactly,
Road.
to get to it.
These are private.
Right.
These are private
Then maybe
roads.
we should drop our
They always
taxes in
have
half
been.
if we're not gonna have a road that we can even get to it. You should.
I'm going on
You
the
should
ca-
have a paved road to Hickory Hammock. That is a county road and it should be paved.
There's no reason to pave it. It's not, you don't have enough people.
But you have enough people using it to get to our property share.
That's what I'm saying.
You've got 42 people using that section of Jeff.
But it
Sanders
does not
Road to get
warrant
out.
just paving it. You might as well pave, it's too much of a cost. just to do that?
Just do the section from 67 to Hickory Hammock?
From 67 to Hickory Hammock?
Yes.
We haven't never done the cost. I'll do it, find out what it was. But the thing about it is that doesn't have anything to do with Hickory Hammock. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Well,
You're looking at a county road.
Hickory Hammock, y'all said that's over. Personally, I would like to ask that Jeff Sanders Road from Highway 67 to Hickory Hammock Road be put in a paving program.
Well, it's
So
just
you
a
do
quarter-
have a lot of people that use that section.
Well, it's just a quarter of a mile though, but it's not gonna help your situation. If you've got 6 miles of road or 8 miles of road inside Hickory Hammock, that 1/4 of a mile being paved is not gonna help you on, you know, what I'm saying? I try to make sure the road department, every time it gets bad, I try to get it, you know, graded and everything, but this is not an attack on me. This is trying to do something to help you all. And to think that you think that I may think it's funny, I don't think so. I've lived up in those woods since 1978, Mr. Sinclair. I've paid my dues up there.
I paid my dues.
I paid my dues up there to ride down that county road when it was substandard. A county road was substandard. I understand. I'm probably one of the ones that probably understand it more than anybody else about riding on a dirt road. Okay? But for you to get up here and say that I think it was funny, at no time did I say that I thought it was funny. I said Bobby Sapp said, why don't you pave the road up to Hickory Hammock? This has been 10 years ago, 10 or 15 years ago. And I said, Bobby, when you pave Hickory Hammock, that's when I'll pay Jeff Sanders. And we left it at that. It was no joke, no pun, no nothing.
Well,
And for
maybe
you to
I
come
took
up
it
here
the
and say
wrong
that
way.
I think it was funny, that disrespects me, Mr. Sinclair,
I wasn't
as a commissioner.
disrespecting you, but you did smile when you said it, okay?
I smile all the time.
You're not smiling much now.
Cheryl,
And I apologize if I've got you upset, okay?
I smile all the time.
Okay,
It's a
can-
lot better to smile than it is to be sour on life. You know, I'm trying to take care of the situation. This situation with Hickory Hammock Road has been an ongoing thing since I've sat up here, and I think the whole time since Alan's been here. And we've tried to do it. We've sent, back when we were required for DEP, we sent to Tallahassee all the stuff that Mr. Bill Wells and Bobby Sapp wanted. DEP come down and kicked us down. And they wouldn't. We've tried several times. But bottom line is, until those roads are brought up to standards as set forth by the county, or until which time the county changes the policy, that's all we can do. You've heard our county attorney, and there's no sense. I didn't make the rule. The rule was in effect before I came into office, before 1998.
Okay, that's fine. I've got the message. Let me ask you one other question. On your paving, when you're doing your other roads, your milled paving, where you take it up and redo a road, do you have excess of that can be brought out there and we could use that on the road ourselves?
No, sir, we can't put public assets on private
can we
property.
buy it?
You can go talk to the milling company and see if they'll sell it to you.
Yeah.
I mean, that mill actually belongs to the
Yeah.
paving company, it's not ours.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what my question was, 'cause
Yeah,
I bought
CW
some, I bought
Roberts.
some here a while back,
talk to the
out of Tallahassee and
Yeah.
brought it down because it was actually cheaper than Lime Rock.
There was some paving going on somewhere in Gulf County or somewhere, wasn't it, Smoky?
They've got a
That
bunch of it
they had the
stockpiled,
mill
don't
that you could buy.
But
they
I
said
thought- I
something
thought y'all
$5 a
owned it.
ton.
No,
I mean,
sir.
the county is
That-
what the
that
reason I said
belongs
that, so-
to, the paving company themselves.
Can you give us
Yeah.
the name of them or
We'll
something?
be happy to give you contact.
And at that time, they were selling it to the county for $5 a ton. So I don't know.
Well, like I said, I bought some off the airport up there in Tallahassee. It was like $300 a load, which actually, when I buy the Lime Rock, it was costing me more than that.
Right.
And this did hold up, a little better where I could spread it, and I'm more doing that now, okay? But to get them up there where at least that will stay in there a little bit harder than your Lime Rock stay in there.
Yes, yes,
But,
yes.
okay, well, if you can get us a number, then we could go, maybe
Give it to
we can get
Mr.
to Nita.
Be glad to help in that regard.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
5-minute recess.